Good afternoon. It's Marianne Mead Ward, Mayor of Burlington. This is my very first show on Cogeco. I hope you will tune in twice a month. We'll have a half-hour panel, different guests. We'll talk about different topics. Today, I'm actually really excited because I have three of my council colleagues here with me today. Councillor Paul Sharman, Councillor Angelo Bentivegna, and Councillor Rory Nissan. So we're going to talk about what's up in the next term of council, what's on their minds, what their priorities are, and we're going to have a little bit of fun at the end. So stay tuned. Welcome everybody to Burlington Matters. I have with me three of my esteemed council colleagues. This is the first show, so I'm very excited about it. We'll do this twice a month. So Angelo Bentivegna from Ward 6, we have Rory Nissan, Ward 3, and Councillor Paul Sharman from Ward 5. So I'm going to come to you first, Councillor Sharman. Tell me one thing that you really hope that you can achieve in the next 4 years.
Oh my goodness, one?
Start with one. We've got 27 minutes.
So I want to improve the quality of life and health and wellness of older adults with less resources.
Okay, and how are you going to do that?
Well, the straightforward answer to that is that we need to create an integrated wellness program that takes a look at all the aspects of people's lives as we get older, so ranging from financial, through physiotherapy, through chiropractic, through dentistry, through adult daycare, right the way through to primary care, so we can keep people out of hospitals. Mm-hmm. That's the simple explanation. And
what steps can we take at the municipality? So some of those services, of course, would be at Halton Region through our Health and Social Services Department. What can we do at the City of Burlington on those things?
Well, the critical issue is that none of them are integrated. And so what we have to build is a partnership between the older adult, so we're going to call them members. We're not going to wait for them to become patients. We're going to have one record of all their needs, including their financial and social circumstances, and have a panel of professionals who they can then negotiate, talk with about their personal needs, and design a pathway as well as funding where necessary to help them get through their lives, so that we avoid those matters which we call red flags, things which could make people ill later, avoid them from ever occurring.
And do you see the municipality providing some funding for that, or what would be our role in that?
So the LIN will be involved, the
local
region will be involved, absolutely, and they already are. Where the municipality kicks in is where we get into needing space. So for what we call, it's called PACE, Program for All-Inclusive Care for Elders. We need about 4,500 square foot for every centre, and that will serve perhaps 1 to 2 kilometres in the vicinity. As if we can put it in a place where there's already seniors housing, 140, 180 units, then we can serve the folks who are in the buildings, plus all those who are within the area. So we need help with zoning and possibly land.
So when there are new development applications coming forward, the possibility then becomes whether we can insist as a city, as a municipality and a council, that there be some space set aside for that.
Exactly, and we want it on the ground floor, and that allows us also to think about industrial land, employment land, because if we will have sufficient professionals involved with working in the ground floor in the PACE Centre, that will actually allow us to make better use of the unused employment land.
Rory, coming to you next. You are one of 5 new ones on our youngins and new ones on our council, and provide a great new set of eyes and perspectives. Tell me one thing you hope you can achieve in the next 4 years on council.
Well, it's again hard to pick one, but I'll just take one off the top, which is helping with the transportation network in Burlington. Everything from dealing with traffic to public transit, even down to speed control and safety on our residential streets. So there's a lot that we can do on the public transit side. I think we're in need of a surge in public transit in Burlington, and we really need to sort of flip the script, because transit doesn't have a great reputation in Burlington, and possibly, at least partially, deserves. So I think I hope to see some big changes there.
So if you could wave a wand and create a new transit system, what would it look like?
That's a good question. You know, I've seen a lot of different public transit systems, usually in larger municipalities than Burlington. So we have a unique set of challenges here. But I would love to see some express buses along our major routes. I want to see buses getting to the GO train and, importantly, back from the GO train in the evening that are better lined up with the trains themselves as we move to faster service, as we move to more frequent service. We need to keep up with that.
One of the things that we're going to be doing as a council in the next couple of weeks, of course, is working on our budget, and there are some funds being set aside for 3 new buses and new drivers to increase the frequency and perhaps move more to a grid system. And certainly something that that a lot of us have been talking about, and I talked about in the campaign, was to make sure that we serve low rider areas but do it in creative ways. And you've talked about this as well, Paul, that, you know, do we need to run fixed route buses meandering through neighborhoods, or can we partner with rideshare companies or local cab company? Can we have smaller buses? You know, I think certainly I think a lot of the council are willing to have that discussion around what are the alternatives that we can look at to tackle this issue. The end goal is a healthy and functioning transportation system, a public transit system, but what that looks like, I think, you know, we're into exciting times. Yeah, go ahead.
And reduction of greenhouse gases.
So electric vehicles, yes. So we have the city's fleet in smaller vehicles is definitely going towards either all electric or hybrid or electric plug-in. I have an electric plug-in car. I know you now, is yours fully electric,
Full
Rory?
electric, yeah.
Fully electric.
Yeah, it's fun.
Kia Soul. So Rory and I fight for the one electric vehicle charger in the parking lot. But yeah, that's great. How do you find it?
I love the car. I love the feeling of driving by the gas station and not caring what the price is as you go by, you know. Or frankly, when the price gets higher, you can be like, But overall, I find it's a great car, great drive. Yeah. We need more of those on the road. There's no doubt about it. I love using the carpool lane on the highway. You know, that feels pretty good too. And there's a reason that we have incentivized electric vehicles in the past. But you know, the buses, just getting more people on the bus, not only does that, of course, reduce emissions because you're taking cars off the road, but it even gets the people driving around faster and more smooth. So we're saving on emissions, even if they're driving their Dodge Ram diesel truck, for example.
Who has one of those?
I can't
Angela,
think, yeah.
do you have a Dodge? No, I'm just teasing you. Yeah, actually what I love about the EV is that I never have to stand at a pump in this -14 weather, right?
Exactly.
Standing there while you're fueling up. It's just
true.
plug it in at night and
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
And you can plug it in at home and then it'll turn on automatically in the morning. So you get in there, it's nice and toasty. I mean, come on. Can't go wrong.
Yeah, so, you know, the future may be electric buses, and of course that's one of the benefits of other forms of transportation that don't suit our needs, LRT and subways, because they can use some of those emission-free forms of technology.
Yeah.
Good. Angelo, coming to you. One thing, we can go around again. So one thing you'd like to do in your ward or in the city in the next 4 years?
Well, one of the things that I'm pretty passionate about right now, and we're going through the process of budgets, and that's to reduce the dependency that we have created from a resident standpoint of what I feel is maybe overtaxing. And it goes to all levels of government, from federal, provincial, and municipal. I think it's time to what I call retool, rethink, and reinvent how we generate funds to operate our municipalities in particular, which is what I'm here for. Some creative ways. We have a lot of smart people in our city, certainly a lot of smart people who operate the services of our city. We just need to sort of think of ways and find ways to generate funds that what I call we leave on the table. And it could be everything from enforcement on our roads. We hear every day cars are speeding through our neighborhoods. We hear that people are idling on the roads. We hear our parks are being overrun by dogs that aren't on leashes, bicycles that are going amok.
So you want to find people as a revenue source?
Well,
Is that what I'm hearing?
I think that's just one source, and it's not a big source. But there's also, from a business standpoint, we have businesses that need to follow the rules when we, whether it be zoning permits, whether it be building permits, whether it be business licenses. We just need to be a little bit more proactive as opposed to reactive. And if you're breaking the law, then you should be paying what you should be paying for. If you're operating some sort of business, you need to follow the rules of operations. And I think there is a tremendous amount of money out there. And recently I read an article, 46% of people in Ontario are $200 away from making ends meet. Mm-hmm. And that's a serious issue. And I remember 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, I saw a program, that number was more around 42%. So those numbers are increasing rapidly. That's got to tell us something.
And do you see that as a tax issue, or is that an affordable housing issue? I think a lot of the analysis has shown that folks are, house rich and cash poor because of the mortgages that people are taking on over such a long period of time.
Well, I think it's a little bit of everything, and everything adds up. And whether it's the price of gas, as we just talked about, or whether it's the price of hydro, or whether it's the price of groceries going up. The economy has always been, give me more, give me more, give me more, as opposed to looking at it and saying, how can we make things better? And as to Paul's point earlier, how do we make life better? Mm-hmm. Do we make life better by working harder and 2 jobs instead of 1 job, or more part-time jobs? Those are the things I think we need to look at. And municipally, we have some opportunities to say, okay, here's what we need to do. How can we get efficiencies based on what we have now?
This is a good question. We're about to be heading into an efficiency review of municipal government that has been brought to us by the provincial government. So we will have those conversations in the next couple of weeks. From my perspective, certainly in terms of how the municipality is run, Burlington is extremely efficient, right? We have 7-member council. I don't know if you all heard it during the election, but certainly I heard that there were folks asking to go the other way, more council members. Mm-hmm. Not less. And one of the first things, tasks of any new mayor is to assign all the standing committees, boards, commissions, agencies, citizen committees that we sit on. There were 63 of those among the 7 of us, so we each take 9. But that'll be one of the messages that I bring back on behalf of Burlington to the provincial review is, we're really efficient. And in fact, if you look at the council member to constituent ratio in the entire GTA, we're 4th. So Mississauga's first at 1 for about 65,000. Brampton is 1 to 59,000. Vaughan is 1 to roughly 50. It's up there as well. And we're 1 across the board to 39,000. So we're pretty efficient. So
we're a model.
We are a model. So and we're heading into budget. So where, Rory, I'll come to you first. Where would you like this budget to be? Do you think we can have more efficiencies even in government? What would you like to see coming out of this budget discussion?
Well, first of all, I think the staff identified some really important needs, and they laid out a long-term strategy, particularly in terms of asset management. That, for me as a new council member, I was really impressed to see some of the charts and graphs that indicate how a change in investment today can impact us 30 or 40 years down the road. So, for me, that was really important, and I'm thinking about generations below myself and what kind of Burlington they're going to have, and making smart investments today will go a long way. Still, I think there probably are parts where we can try to scrimp and save here and there, and that's our job. We're as elected members is to look for spots where we can tighten it up and deliver the best budget possible for people.
Do you have a target in mind you want to hit?
No, I mean,
yet?
I didn't campaign on a target, and I didn't in Ward 3. People were not, coming after us for lower taxes. A lot of people said they felt the tax rate was quite reasonable in Burlington. They see their friends owning in Waterdown, and it's a very favorable comparison. So we get great value for money in Burlington, I think. So there isn't a specific number, but I am having a budget meeting on January 31st. At the Brant Hills Community Center, and then again February 7th at Conservation Halton. And the whole point of that is to hear from people what they think about the budget. We'll have the finance people there as well, and if people don't like it, then I'll be there to represent them and see what we can do to make it even better.
That's great. Paul, where do you want to land with the budget?
Oh my gosh, a number?
Do you have a number? Do you have some things that you think could come out or want to put in? No. We usually go through that exercise
we go through it with a high degree of consideration. We don't do this lightly. And I think that if you take a look at Burlington, there are two other municipalities in the GTHA that have lower taxes per 100,000 of value, and that would be Milton and Halton Hills. Hamilton's way higher, Oakville's way higher, and everybody else as well. So you look at it from that point of view. We have had the advantage over the years of being high assessment, high growth, and now we have lower growth at less than 1% a year, which means that we don't have any offsets to our budget. So in terms of balance, revenue minus cost equals increase, right? Unless you have higher growth, which we don't have. So we've been able to take advantage over the years of the growth moving to Halton, to other municipalities, so Oakville and Milton, which has given us an offset. But we have a culture in Burlington that's occurred over decades. Well, we have to be low cost, right? So we cut costs that caused us to have to incur a $5 million hit for Nelson Pool. So we have to be really careful. From 1990 to 1997, there was a zero tax increase. And the result of that is, had we put a 1% away each year, just a 1% tax increase, we'd have no funding gap for infrastructure, whereas we now have a 60 to 126 million gap, which we now have to pay. So we have to avoid kicking the can down the road. Because every year that goes by, inflation increases and the risk increases. So we're now having to pay for prior council's unwillingness to put away cash to fix the roads and the buildings. So we have to be accountable for that. But then you get into the other issues around, do we have to have nice to haves, and do we have to have improperly justified things? And my focus in this budget is to eliminate the nice to haves and to eliminate the improperly justified items.
Can you give us an example?
Well, I think transit, they're saying they want 3 buses and 6 drivers. I can see that is possible, but I would actually suggest to us we should be thinking about investing more in smart communications at traffic lights so that we can communicate with vehicles. For example, smart cars and in the future, autonomous cars. And that would allow us to actually get out of our gas guzzling buses, so emphasis on GHG, and move to on-demand buses, right? And on-demand transit, and they would be smaller. And that would avoid people worrying about late night trips home on the train. Because the big buses, they don't take everybody everywhere they want to go anyway. So there's a whole lot of stuff we need to do in the context of a future view. Number one is infrastructure, but number two, transportation is the big issue. Mm-hmm. And that will help us address our number two, perhaps our number one biggest issue in the city, which is congestion of our streets related to cut off traffic off the highway, which is where all the congestion has been growing over the last 5-6 years. And if we can move to get people out of their cars, that'll be great. So lots of things to think about, but in the end, to answer your question, I'm okay with 3% this year.
That's great. We've started at 3.99, so we'll have to look at ways to trim 1.6 million. So I've got some ideas. I know all of you have some ideas, and those budget discussions start actually next week in February, and I think we're tracking to have our budget done by the end of March. Angelo, do you have a number you want to get to, or things that you want to put in or out of this year's budget?
Certainly a great discussion, and again, I hear what my colleagues are saying here, and there are some things that I certainly will go with. But there's a lot of issues that we keep talking about. And again, everything we talk about it involves money, and involves money from residents. So Paul mentioned years ago there was 0% increases, and there's probably 5 or 6 or 7 of those years. And whether that was right or not right, we had development back in those days, we probably didn't need it. The question is, why are we in such a hurry now to sort of do all that catch up at the expense of every single citizen in this city? Oakville's higher, they say, Waterdown's higher. So what? We live in Burlington. We live in a community that has what we have. We want our efficiencies to get better. If we're lower than everybody else, that is great. And that's the attitude I want to take. The asset management, absolutely. We need $126 million. Totally understand that. We just got to get creative and find ways to get that money. We have lots of reserve funds. We use reserve funds for certain reasons. There was a discussion, I think Paul mentioned, that maybe we can make some investments with some of those reserve funds that we can, to, just like the rest of the world does, to increase our value, or and maybe throw some money into asset management. I just like to get all of us, we have 5 new councillors, 1 new mayor, and a smart man on the other end who has all the accounting processes. Who I think as a citizen, as a council member, and as a representative in this city, we have an incredible opportunity to change the way we do business with all these new people, and I am excited about it. I've spoken to a lot of our directors, and I think most of them are excited. I love where we're going. I love the attitude we have. We just got to get there. And as a number, I'm still looking closer to inflation rate. When we get to that 3% and start whittling to 2.9, 2.8, I'd be happier. But I'm looking closer to inflation rate.
I want to turn our conversation to the rural area, because both of you have pieces of rural Burlington in your wards. We have had some excitement from the province, lots of excitement on different files, but most recently on, of course, Bill 66, which was introduced. Schedule 10 of Bill 66 would have allowed municipalities to pass what was called open for business bylaws and bypass a whole range of legislation, including greenbelt protections, including the Clean Water Act, and labor laws, childcare laws, a whole bunch of things were tucked into Schedule 10. And of course, in Burlington, we're unique among all the Halton municipalities in that we're half rural. And a large part of our land is protected greenbelt. We have an agricultural economy. And then the government recently, I think because of the public outcry from Burlington, from many municipalities across the GTA, has just recently announced they're going to take Schedule 10 out. Are we safe? Is our greenbelt safe? What are your thoughts on how we make sure that our rural community is protected now and in the future, and we have an active agricultural economy?
So, the greenbelt will never be safe. We will always have to be vigilant about the greenbelt. The economic pressure, in some ways legitimate, in some ways not, will always be there. In fact, it'll only increase over time. So, those of us who want to see, the GTA continue to have that kind of green space through it will need to always be watching for it. Here in Burlington, we are lucky in that a good portion of our land is also protected as Niagara escarpment land. So that helps us as well. I think we would be one of the last places where we would see that happen. And of course, we also have a lot of commercial industrial area hectares and hectares, 400 hectares, I think. What is the number?
506 at recent count. I got an updated number. So
we have a lot.
Vacant employment land ready to go.
And
that
the
is
irony-
in the urban area.
That is urban area, absolutely, yeah. And the irony there, of course, is that a lot of that area is hard to develop because of MTO restrictions. So it goes back to the province. So maybe there's an opportunity there to show that yes, Burlington is open for business. Help us.
Help us be open for business.
The current government wants to reduce red tape, so let's see what they can do to help open up those areas for us. But up in the north, we have to be extremely vigilant and protective. We've heard about highways cutting swaths through it. We've had sort of our dividing line questioned at times between the urban and the rural boundary. So that is a big portion of my job. And it's something that everybody in Burlington wants, not just people who live
care about it.
in the north, beyond the wall.
Beyond the wall. Everybody cares about it. And actually we are out of time. So you get the last word on that. But I have one quick question for you, just so people get to know a little bit about you. So in one word, last book or movie that you watched or liked. And we'll start with you.
The Budget Book. all three volumes.
All right, Rory, beat that.
Oh my gosh, I can't think of the name of the movie right now, but
Vice. Did anyone see that one?
No, you saw Vice,
saw
right?
that one.
Yeah, so that's probably high on your list. Right now, I read Life of Pi recently, finally,
book.
and that was a great escapist novel.
very good.
So that was really nice, yeah.
Paul?
Oh, my favorite book is written by an author called Ray Kurzweil, and the subject is The Singularity is Near, and it's about the merging of biological and digital systems, which we already have. But it's going to evolve, so implants instead of smartphones.
So we would be a really, really exciting book club is what I'm getting out of this. Anyway, thank you, all of you coming. I really appreciate your time, your insights, your thoughtfulness on the questions. We will do it again, and I will be bringing the other three council members, Shauna, Lisa, and Calvin. Yes, thank you. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another show. Thanks for tuning in, and you can reach me with the numbers on the screen. Have a great day, Burlington.